My dad's the worst at it. I'm sure Lee's can attest to this, where like he's not there, I don't even know, 70%, 60% of the year, 80%, who knows. But when he shows up, he'll say something like, hey, when you get a chance, can you go ahead and clean this, right? And they'll be working on something that's actually making money for the company, and they will literally stop what they're doing, go get a vacuum and start cleaning this area, right?
Welcome to the Decode Podcast with Elias Malfovan, Daniel Stanfill, and Sean Kincaid.
Back again on the Decode Podcast. We are joined by Timon Ruban from Luminovo. He is the founder and managing director, hailing from Bavaria, Germany, but I understand now by way of New York. He has a master's in electronic engineering from Stanford University, and he's just an all-around cool guy. Timon, welcome.
Thank you. I think that's the first time someone's mentioned my master's degree in a long time.
Hey, you earned it. We might as well throw it out there, right?
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here.
We are glad to have you. And just kind of jump into a little bit of conversation. The term's probably overabused or overused and abused, but you hear disruptive technology, disruptive platform. You hear that word thrown around, but I really can't think of a better descriptor for what Luminovo is doing. It's really shaking up the way people quote and source, and it's a pretty darn cool platform. So I just kind of want to give you a chance to, in your own words, describe what the product is for those who maybe don't understand it or don't have awareness of it.
Yeah. So we at Luminovo, we're building a platform dedicated to quoting and procuring electronics. When I say electronics, I mean PCBAs, printed circuit board assemblies. And at the heart, we try to connect all types of supply chain data, BOMs, prices, the demands for those BOMs, stock levels, life cycle compliance information of parts, all in one place, so that you can, with the clicks of a few buttons, source your BOMs, quote them, do labor costing, get a price for PCB, all that stuff that you need to do if you work at an EMS or in procurement at an OEM.
Like you two do, Daniel and Sean.
Like we do. I must say it on this. I feel like it should be known. I am a Luminovo customer, so I'm very well versed in what they do. So
very new.
Happy to have you on. Yeah, I'm happy to have you on. And I met Timon. I think the first time we sat together was at the AI, whatever that conference thing was at PCB West. I'm not PCB West, Apex. And, and then the next thing I know, I'm interviewing you at Apex on the show floor. And I was like, hey, I've seen you again. And then it seems like everywhere we go. But the way your brain works with table data, it fascinates me. And I think one of the best things that told me I would like you from the beginning was the overuse of the word AI, right? So LLM is what we should be really calling these things. And the use of AI is slowly becoming into it more and more. And I don't think we're there yet, but I'm more interested, in your initial phase. If I were to interview you about the questions that I want to ask that weren't generated for me by AI, what I would ask is, when you were first onto this API structure, right? Because I'm assuming that's how it works, most of it, right?
There's a lot of APIs involved, yeah. In the end, connecting data is connecting to a bunch of APIs, getting them into one unique data model, so you can then automate the heck out of it.
Yeah. When you were first onto that, how hard of a challenge was that? Because it's not just one website that you search. I don't think people really understand how much crawling is going on when you make these calls. Did it feel like overwhelming to have to go, okay, we first got, let's say it was DigiKey, right? And then you had to, let's do Mouse or Newark, whatever was next. was it overwhelming because the amount of suppliers that you do reach out to and the platform is quite a lot, right? So how was that for you in the beginning stages when you were first creating the code and first making these calls and realizing, hey, we could link this to one master table and pull this up easily? Because the way the end user sees it, right, is I upload a bomb and I get this fantastic results of who's got the cheapest price and who's got the most available stock, et cetera, whatever you want to sort. But they don't realize what happened in the background to create all that.
I think it was never overwhelming for the reason that we've been at it for 5 years and it's been very incremental. So I think by now we have around 50, it's a little bit over 50 different APIs connected from all types of different suppliers, mostly distributors, a few PCB suppliers as well. But that Rome wasn't built in one day, but it was 5 years. And so we started with like DigiKey and Farnell and Mouser, and it seemed very manageable because it was just like 3, and then we added Octopart to get like a broader coverage. And then we went at it one by one, and it felt like every customer that we signed came with like a request of like, but you don't have this supplier. It's like, oh, well, I guess you're right. We should really add that supplier. And by now, one of the big pleasures of running a company is that our team has been growing and growing. So by now we have a full team, one product team divided in 7 sub-teams that all take care of one part of the domain. And we have one of those 7 teams. There's nothing else but basically managing and maintaining all of these API integrations. And to some degree, I think we've had probably by now 5 engineers. It's a little bit like the fire test to become an engineer at Luminovo. You'll come in as an intern, and your first task will be integrating a new API. Because it's not the most interesting job, let's be very honest. It's not that fun to read API documentation and map how did they name standard manufacturer lead time, and how did they name the 7 different life cycles of obsolete and active, and everyone spells it slightly differently, and we have to do this mapping so that you in the end have one unique data set. And so by now it's kind of this, every year we get like a new intern who later turns full-time, who for like half a year does all of the APIs and then slowly graduates to more interesting topics, and the next person comes in. And I think that's how we've so far been managing that no one goes crazy of just having to deal with 50 APIs for everything.
It's a rite of passage at Luminovo to do it.
It's Luminovo's version of taking out the trash on Fridays.
Yeah. Exactly.
So the world that Sean and I live in, right? I don't know about you, Sean, but I can't think of the last time that somebody brought us a quote and they were like, take your time, no rush. We don't need this product in any, certain time. Like everyone's always wanting fast, quick turn, get it to me as quick as you can. And so how do you, like, if you're a high mix contract manufacturer like Sean and I are, like, how does your software help streamline stuff to get through it all faster and churn out NPI quicker and get to the next job?
It all starts with scrubbing the BOM, which you probably know. You have to do that manually. It takes a hell out of the time. But I think that's the other piece of software that we've invested a lot of time in. One of the 7 sub-teams is Team BOM. And all they do is see all the messy BOMs and try to write better heuristics. By now also using some LLMs to help clean that BOM better. Which ones are MPNs, which are supplier part numbers, what are the manufacturers, which lines should be grouped together to form one BOM item, which designators, which quantity. Because only if you can do that, and once you know exactly the MPN, the manufacturer, then you do all the automation of querying the APIs, fetching all the prices. And it's to some degree, I think, if you want to build this type of supply chain software, those are the 2 main challenges that I think people underestimate when they get into it. Or sometimes we do speak to some customers that have homegrown a little bit of it. And the one really hard part is cleaning BOMs, because without that, all your API connections are worth nothing, because they won't help you one bit if you don't know exactly which MPNs and manufacturers to look for. And the other thing we just talked about is maintaining 50 APIs. It turns out you actually need a full-time team of multiple engineers to stay on top of that, because the APIs change, the APIs go down, if performance issues, rate limits. So I think those two things are at the heart of it. I have recently, maybe to spin this conversation a little bit, talking about AI everywhere left and right, there's been one major shift in my thinking of how we build Luminovo that has been triggered by all of this AI stuff and using ChatGPT every day and seeing how easy it is to vibe code some dashboard or some automation these days. And that is that I think for the first, say, 4.5 years at Luminovo, what we've been building is like a website with a lot of buttons, right? Where we tried to be very opinionated because we thought like, okay, we have to have a very clear process that makes it really easy for you to be really fast. And it's our job to be very opinionated of like which buttons there are and like in which order you do things to kind of streamline this best practice workflow. And to some degrees, I think that's been part of our success, that often when people switch from other software to ours, is that let's say 80-90% found it much more intuitive, and they really like that very opinionated workflow and going through it in that steps that we thought gets you through it the fastest. But then there was always the 10, 15, 20% that like we're used to it a little bit different, and then got really annoyed that like we do it that way. And for example, one very controversial but also very important design decision we made very early is that we've completely separated the BOM cleaning area from sourcing. So like while you clean the BOM, it's all about like scrubbing the BOM and finding the right MPNs and choosing the right alternatives, and like don't worry about sourcing just yet. And then once you've done that, then you go into sourcing, and that's when you get all the prices and the stock levels, and you try to automate that, because once you've made the decisions about which part alternative, that's a whole new job to do. And that's, I think, a decision that many like, but again, sometimes you talk to people and they're like, they hate it because it's like, this should be at the all in one. And it's like, it should be, while I choose the part alternatives, I need to know the price. And they've got a point, because like, why go through the trouble of qualifying a part alternative if it's more expensive than what you already have? And so the mindset shift that I've had very recently in terms of how I see the role of Luminovo, but I think really of any vertical supply chain software such as ours that tries to sell in one specific vertical, like electronics, is that we should be the ones taking out the trash, because that's the stuff that no one wants to do, connecting all the APIs, getting all of the data in one place, in one nice data model where parts are connected to manufacturers, are connected to part categories, are connected to offers are connected to suppliers, and you've got like this industry domain model, so to say, that maps the complexity of the real world into software. But once you have that, now with a lot of this like vibe coded dashboards and LLMs, we are now trying to go down a route of being much, much more flexible and letting you configure and at some point even implement workflows on top of that data model and plumbing that we've put together for you. And I think that's a mindset shift that wasn't there at the beginning. Like in the beginning, I thought, and to some degrees there still is, a lot of value in being very opinionated and just giving you the one way that we think is the best way, and the button needs to be here, and like, trust us, we have good UI UX designers, and the blue is the best color. And I'm joking a little bit about some of that stuff, but that's a mindset shift that's quite recent for me. And right now we're rethinking a lot of parts of our applications in Luminovo, and rebuilding a lot of them to try to go to like focus on that heart of what I think good supply chain software needs to do, which is the plumbing, the data plumbing, and like getting it all together. Because once you have, then actually today it's really easy to, like vibe code a dashboard around it, or like build your own workflow and let people be as opinionated as they want to be. Because everyone thinks that their opinion is the best and it should be like this. And that's the type of workflow and the type of insights or analytics that you care about. This insight was unprompted. Maybe
that's good.
That's interesting.
To the podcasters, but that's been something that's on my mind.
Before we get too far away from kind of, I guess, Sean's line of questioning in terms of like Luminovo's beginnings, my question regarding that is, what was your experience like, and maybe how much resistance, if any, did you receive from, the platforms that are critical to making your product work, right? Like the component manufacturers, the PCB suppliers, were they like eager to work with you, or was there some pushback? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, good question.
I think we got mostly very lucky with timing, because there had been a few, I would say, other companies that kind of pioneered this notion that there needs to be more transparency in the supply chain, but you're gonna have some kind of software that like pulls in all the prices and all the stock levels. And so when we started 5 years ago in 2020, with many companies, there was no resistance whatsoever, because they kind of already heard it before, and we were new kids on the block, but they were happy. And they've already adopted that mindset that actually, if I'm a distributor, my goal should be to be connected to all these digital platforms so that my price is available everywhere. There's been, I would say, occasional cases, but some of them even that have flipped over those 5 years and kind of come to the conclusion that it is actually good. There was much more, I think, early resistance on the PCB supplier side, actually, because I think there is one area where we actually pioneered this notion of getting prices for PCB via API and putting it directly in front of others. So whereas there was already other software that pulled in DGKey and Farnell and Mouser for you in one place, and we weren't the first to do that. I think we were one of the first to do that for PCB suppliers as well. And so there, it was of much longer conversations around like, does that really make sense for your business? It felt much more strategic, often, these discussions with some PCB manufacturers around adding them to the platform. But you can definitely feel some network effect by now. It's very different in the beginning when we had 5 customers and we were like, what felt like fresh out of college doing this thing. And by now we have 300 customers, many of the very largest contract manufacturers in Europe who have a lot of like market weight, where suddenly the suppliers really want to be on that platform and get their prices in front of the people that have that buying power. That's been one of the good effects of growing the platform.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought about the PCB portion of it, and Sean could probably speak to this better than any of us here, but a PCB seems like an infinitely more difficult item to price and standardize pricing around than say a component. Would you agree with that, Sean, or am I off base here?
Not if you have the right data, but the way Timon's doing in it, it's a lot more complicated, a lot more, I wouldn't say it's what I would enter into my program for a PCB quote, and the way he does it is, it makes mine look like a caveman's doing it, right? It's he's able to do, like, we can't do DFM checks, like, and I know you don't want to fully go out. I don't know, the last time we talked, it's rudimentary, right, a little bit, but I can't do that from just uploading a Gerber file, right? And we look at it and use our experience in house, right? But the fact that he's able to actually like look at the Gerber, overlay the board, actually show it on the screen online, as well as input your standard specs to get a real quote. It's way more advanced than what I do, right? Like, so I take basic data and then plug that into there and then get a pricing from that, right? Based on my own internal calculations. He's doing the same, but he takes it a level up, where it, like you talked about the UI part of it. There's just something cool about seeing the actual board. Just make sure, hey, this is what you want, right? Yeah, and then not just sourcing it from one place. He's doing it from multiple places at the same time, right? So it's like I said, what I do is almost caveman compared to what they offer from their platform.
Daniel, is that a nitrogen purge behind you? Is everything okay there?
Are you seeing something behind me? That's localized humidifiers at night running. It's a little dry around here in Nebraska. Timon, I got, you talk about growth. You talk about how you're doing in like European markets and stuff. I have to imagine you're seeing growth in the United States, because every single show I've been to, Luminovo has got to be one of the most hopping booths around, one of the most exciting personalities, best energy. We were right next to you guys at SMTAI recently, and I think Matthew spent a bunch of time on our couch. I don't know how much time he billed you, but I don't know how much he was actually working. He spent a lot of time with us, but that was a lot of fun. I could tell you guys had a lot of traction there, and you always do. So what are you seeing the American reception to your product like?
I would say in terms of booth energy, we always come in second to the decode. So I don't blame Matt for hanging out there more than an hour. Yeah, that's the reason why I'm in New York right now, is actually because we're building out our team. We're currently 4 in the US. We're soon going to be 8. So we keep investing. In the end, the North American market is roughly, in the contract manufacturing world, roughly the same size as in Europe. And in terms of customers, we're still at the very beginning. I think right now we have around 15 to 20 customers in the US, compared to like 10, 15 times that in Europe. So there's a long way still for us to go.
Well, Sean's such an influencer. Having him's got to count for at least 2.
Honestly, it was a signing of
Lost
Matt
customers.
When you signed Matt, though, like what you're talking about, like helped me really trust you guys. And then I started getting these customers that they wanted me to quote 14, different boards within, hey, I need this by end of day Friday, and it's Tuesday afternoon, right? And I'm like, well, I can't do this manually, like there's no way. And that's what really, really drove me, is because of the aggregate buy feature.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of data that I would have to manually combine into spreadsheet after spreadsheet after spreadsheet, and then say count, right? It's a nightmare. And that's what sold me the most, was the aggregate buy, where you can upload a bunch of bombs, say find the common part numbers, and then just give me the best real price that I can get on this stuff. Because I had this resistor that was being placed on every job, and there's 40 on this one, 1,500 on this one, 7, and it just, okay, let me buy the whole reel and get the real price, and then I don't have to, one feeder here, one feeder here, one feeder here. I can just put it on, and then they run all the jobs together, right? So that's what sold me on that. And Matt's he's a great guy. He's got like a trusting personality too.
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
There's lots of like internals videos circulating on Slack of just Matt striking up conversations at fairs, and we're all flabbergasted by the just swagger this guy manages to do. I am the opposite of that. I hate networking. I don't like talking to strangers. Quick shout out to whichever gods at any networking dinner in the industry always sits me right next to Sean.
Yeah.
As if they knew that I don't actually want to talk to new strangers. And Matt's the opposite. He's really great. So it has been really good for leading our sales efforts in the US. Another thing that I'm currently enjoying a lot is that I said before, we're 4 in the US right now, soon to be 8. We're in 80 in total at Luminovo. Okay. So in Europe, it already does feel like, it's still a startup, but it's a little bit different than if you have a team of 4 compared to a team of 80. And so when I'm in Europe mode, I feel I'm like fully in manager mode. And in the US, it still feels much more scrappy. And it still feels a little bit like with underdogs again. I'm starting from the beginning. And that's a phase in building a company that I really enjoy. So for me, it's been lots of coming out.
It's kind of interesting. I think this is one of the first times that Daniel's slammed with work, I'm slammed with work, Elias is slammed with work, and we're all trying to scale our companies right now in different forms. How do you scale your company? Is it just hiring bodies, or is it's got to be different than, because we can just add more machines, right? We can just,
in the end, a very common startup misconception is that counting how you grow is counting how many employees you have. That's typical for software companies. But what actually matters is how many customers you have. So we try to focus on that. Obviously, to get new customers, you do need to invest. And for us, investing means new people. Of our costs, 90% is payroll. 90% of our costs at a software company is just people. And so that's also in terms of management by far the most important asset. So there's a lot of focus on culture, and how we work together, on training our people, on making sure they actually enjoy working at Luminovo, because that is our most important asset at the company.
I know that's something that was in the show notes from producer Paul. He pointed out that it just seems like, the few employees that you do have here in the States, Matt being one of them, and just the general vibe from Luminovo, that it seems like a really cool place to work. And he was curious about what ingredients went into that.
So I fully agree. I can't take all the credit for it. We've got really lucky with some of our hires, and I think in aggregate, it's what defines the culture. Similar to, I think, your group here. I don't know who defines the culture, the Decode podcast. But it's probably a mix of all yours. Is there an answer? Okay, I'll ask that question after.
It's eclectic, to say the least.
We don't accept questions from the guests, Timon. Just say we're the ones that ask the questions.
Right.
Okay, that made us so uncomfortable. We're all, huh? What?
I can tell you. So in terms of culture, there's one specific, we call it an operating principle, that when we onboard new hires, that's like I give them an hour speech on it. I will, for the sake of the length of this podcast, try to keep it short. But that principle is called engage in productive conflict. And another like hype buzzword that you might have heard is the topic of psychological safety, which is very related. Psychological safety is the best definition for that is that you have the willingness to engage in productive conflict. And so I think the thing I hold really dear at Luminovo, and that's been generally working well, even though you always, with everyone that comes in, have to re-engage, is getting people to feel comfortable enough to say when something is shit, or when they're offended, or when there's something that they don't like, and being very direct about it, and actually, engaging in that.
I appreciate that from a leader. Like I have that here with Gary. He even recently said in a meeting, like, I count on all of you guys to tell me if I'm doing something stupid. I need you guys to tell me.
Yes, that's exactly it. And that's, to me, the most important part of the culture at Luminovo. It's the reason why I really enjoy working here too, because we have most people that do that. The biggest failure mode is not speaking up. So there's technically two failure modes in engaging in productive conflict, and one is engaging conflict without the productive, where you're just kind of being a little bit obnoxious and just you're like pissing people off, and sometimes you have maybe people who put their elbows out a little bit too much. And I think for us, and maybe that's, for us, it's definitely, that's not the problem. So I think we have no assholes at Luminovo. But it is a problem sometimes that people don't speak up, and like getting everyone like that. They're a little
not
bit too
everyone's like that. If you share your opinion at Metalech, Elias doesn't allow you to make eye contact for at least a week. So
You can share your opinion just once. It's definitely not the case. There's plenty of knocks on the door all day long, and I agree though. It's particularly as you get a bit bigger in size, as you've mentioned, like when you're in scrappy startup mode and you're bootstrapping and you're around everything all day long, like you have a pretty good pulse of what's going on, or at least you think you do. But as the company size scales, like you really depend on the doers in your organization to give you, temperature checks every once in a while. Hey, this is what we're seeing. This is what's not working. I have this idea. Like that's so important. So having an environment that fosters the ability to come and bring those ideas, or even just, hey, I don't really know what to do about this, but here's what I'm seeing. That's also a fine approach, But I get what you're saying in terms of sort of the two goalposts of that process, right? They both need to be in place. Like say it when you need to, but don't say it if you don't need to and it's not productive.
Yeah. And I tell people to err on the side of saying it.
Sure.
Because that's the easier mistake to make, to like think like, me off a little bit, but I'll just eat it and not mention it, and then you get more and more upset about it, and sometimes you explode, and that's what we want to avoid by engaging early, often.
I think we're I think we're gonna need a new producer. We have kind of an episode Slack that goes on, and he just keeps sending heart emojis to everything you're saying. So probably,
Yeah, that's true.
we're gonna need a new producer soon, and you'll probably have another employee. So
For me, I run into the issue of I sometimes underestimate the weight of my voice, and when I tell an employee to do something, they override what their manager told them to do, and sometimes I don't know what that manager had them do, and I don't know why they had them do that, right? So instead of going through the proper channels, I've been so guilty of this lately. I see an employee who I assume is just sitting around or something, and I say, go over here and start training on this and learning this, right? And this and that. And come to find out, they were over there to do another task, that they were waiting for something to come in. And then now the other manager comes in and says, hey, where is this guy? Right. And then he says, well, Sean told me to go over here, and it's like, I forget my own weight, and I don't follow procedures of checking with everybody to see, because I didn't have people in the beginning, it was all just me, and I just did everything myself. And now that I have people, it's tough to look at it as like extensions of my fingertips, and it's just tough.
That resonates with me so much, because that's happening to me also all the time. One of the, like, engaging in productive conflict works really well if you have a lot of trust, which you build up if you actually work closely with someone and interact in little conflicts again and again. And then you can make bigger and bigger conflicts, and you build up this huge amount of trust to have a really good working relationship. And that's great. And it's, I wouldn't say easy, but very doable that way if you care about it and you work with someone closely. You do not work closely with someone, it's actually really hard. And even if you have it with like 20 people at Luminovo that I've worked with closely, and there's the others that I haven't worked with closely, and I forget that actually I don't have a good level of trust with them. And then because of the scope of being the founder, that I kind of feel responsible for almost everything, even though I'm not. I have a clear kind of thing that I really am responsible for. But so I drop comments left and right. I'm like, here I have an opinion, and here I have an opinion, and here I have an opinion. And I'm very used to doing that. And what you just said, for me, it's less about like assigning tasks, but more about like giving opinions on Slack internally, where I have an opinion on this and that. And I've caused one or the other crisis.
Right.
I didn't really mean it at all. I just had this offhand thought and comment, and I kind of wasn't aware of that. Obviously, if you just joined last month and you haven't interacted with me at all, and this is the first message you get from the founder, you're going to take it like very seriously. And you also don't have that psychological safety yet to directly engage with me if you think that was dumb or annoying or unhelpful. And so that's the most common way for me to fail actually at our engaging in good productive conflict, is through that. I like engage with someone that I don't have a good level of trust with yet, because I haven't worked with them much. And I underestimate, like you said, the weight of my voice as the founder.
Yeah, it's it's weird too, because I've actually started with new hires saying, I'm probably going to tell you to do something sometime, but please check with the manager first. It literally happened to somebody I told that to, and they've been here for 4 months, and I know them kind of, from outside of work as well too. So it's, I don't know. My dad's the worst at it. I'm sure Lee's can attest to this, where like he's not there. I don't even know, 70%, 60% of the year, 80%, who knows? But when he shows up, he'll say something like, hey, when you get a chance, can you go ahead and clean this, right? And they'll be working on something that's actually making money for the company, and they will literally stop what they're doing, go get a vacuum and start cleaning this area, right? It's just...
You talk about the weight of your work. I mean, Rick can get, now that's a man that's going to have some weight behind his words. Forget 100%. What Sean says.
100%. 100%.
Well, Timon, thank you so much for your time. I'll blame Elias for having to cut this short, because he has whatever things that he considers more important. So where can the people find you, and where should they find Luminovo next?
Next, you will find us at Productronica next week in our home turf. That's one of the biggest shows in Munich. That's where you would see our by far biggest booth. You're going to miss it, Sean.
with the jacket.
What's the size? How big is the booth? How big is the booth?
In
I would
meters.
I don't know the dimension, but it's around 4 times the size of the booth you saw at SMTAI.
Are you gonna have alcohol there? I heard you can put alcohol in the booths.
I think there will be in the evenings. I think not during the day, but in the evenings they put up the variant beer.
Is there just people like walking around trashed there? I just don't understand how that works. Because it's like we have Vegas here in the United States, right? And everyone's just drunk gambling, right? And if you had this free liquor flowing around at some trade show, I can't imagine what the Americans would do, right?
Yeah. I think there must be. I'm not sure I've really ever met anyone hammered. I heard very good things about the SMTA in Guadalajara.
That's supposed to be a fun crowd. Yeah.
That beats the beer in Munich is the tequila in Mexico. But I wouldn't know. Other than that, you can always just go to our website, request to reach out to get a demo. It's luminovo.com. We chose the name Luminovo, by the way, in the hope that you could pronounce it in both English and German and understand how to spell it. And I mean, for anyone listening, if you got this far,
look, if you've got Sean as a customer, then obviously you're reaching even the basis level of. So anyway, I mean, you're doing fine. You're not going to confuse anyone.
But especially here in the US, since that's my main priority right now, here I'm happy to personally talk with anyone that's interested. You can also reach out to me personally. My email is timon@luminovo.com. Please, crawlers on the internet, don't spam me.
I mean, get prepared for the onslaught.
Supply chain person, please do reach out.
It's going to come flooding in now. So thank you to our audience. Thank you, Timon. We encourage you all to follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on YouTube, subscribe to our, Podbean channel, whatever. Follow Elias, Sean, Timon, Matt, all the good people at Luminovo. And thanks again. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Timon.
Take care.